Hey PharmaTalk subscribers, welcome to our latest video on column chromatography. This is a fascinating technique that's super important in the pharma world. Basically, it's all about separating and purifying compounds by passing them through a special column. Different compounds travel at different speeds, which allows us to collect them separately. It's a crucial tool in research and manufacturing, helping us develop new medicines and make sure they're pure and safe. Stay tuned for more in-depth explanations and practical tips on this essential technique. Oh yeah, Flash Column Chromatography is like the speed version of the traditional method. It uses a pump or gas to push the solvent through the column much faster, which makes the whole process way quicker. It's really popular in labs for purifying organic compounds efficiently. It's a great way to get the job done quickly without sacrificing purity.
All right, let's talk about normal phase chromatography. In this type, you have a polar stationary phase, like silica gel, and a nonpolar mobile phase, like hexane. It's perfect for separating compounds that are more polar. You'll often see this used in the purification of natural products. Okay, now let's switch gears and talk about reverse phase chromatography. This is kind of the opposite of normal phase. Here, the stationary phase is nonpolar, like C18 bonded silica, and the mobile phase is polar, usually something like water with alcohol. With this setup, it's really good for separating nonpolar or less polar compounds. It's a common method used in pharmaceutical analysis. Oh, HPLC is the powerhouse of chromatography. It uses high-pressure pumps and really sensitive detectors to get super precise results quickly. You can use it in different modes, like normal phase, reverse phase, ion exchange, or size exclusion. It's super versatile and used in tons of fields, like pharmaceuticals, food safety, and environmental testing, especially for analyzing very small amounts of substances.
So, ion exchange chromatography is all about separating molecules based on their charge. The stationary phase has charged groups on resin beads, which attract and bind molecules with the opposite charge. If you use cation exchange, it attracts positive ions, and anion exchange attracts negative ions. It's a really useful method for purifying things like amino acids, proteins, and even water samples.
Got it! Size-Exclusion Chromatography, or SEC, separates molecules based on their size. It's also called gel filtration or gel permeation. Basically, larger molecules pass through the column faster because they can't fit into the tiny pores in the material, while smaller molecules get trapped in those pores, slowing them down. It's a great method for separating things like proteins, polymers, and other large biomolecules.
Affinity chromatography is super specific. It uses a special binding interaction between a target molecule and a ligand. This allows you to selectively purify specific compounds, like proteins, enzymes, or antibodies, with very high purity. It's a powerful technique for isolating specific molecules from complex mixtures. Chiral chromatography is super important for separating molecules that are mirror images of each other, called enantiomers. It uses a special chiral stationary phase that interacts differently with each enantiomer, allowing them to be separated. This is absolutely essential in the pharmaceutical industry for making safe chiral drugs, because even a small difference between enantiomers can completely change how a drug works or its side effects.
Absolutely. Choosing the right chromatography method depends on what you're working with. You need to consider the properties of your compounds, like their size, polarity, and charge. Also, think about your goal. Are you trying to purify something, separate molecules, or analyze them? Once you know what you need to achieve, you can choose the method that best suits your needs, and make sure you have the right equipment available.
Packed columns are filled with solid stationary phase particles. When the sample flows through, it interacts with the solid, and the components get separated. They're commonly used in HPLC and gas chromatography because they provide good separation and precision. It's a reliable way to separate complex mixtures. Open tubular or capillary columns are basically thin tubes coated with a stationary phase. They're primarily used in gas chromatography and offer high efficiency and fast separation. They're especially good for working with very small sample amounts. Ion exchange columns are designed for separating charged particles. They contain a special ion exchange resin with functional groups. These columns are used in various applications, like water purification, protein separation, and more. You can get them for both cation and anion exchange, depending on whether you're separating positively or negatively charged particles. Size-exclusion chromatography have porous beads that separate molecules based on their size. Large molecules pass through quickly because they can't enter the pores, while smaller ones get trapped inside the pores, slowing them down. They're widely used for studying proteins, polymers, and other large molecules. Reverse phase columns have nonpolar stationary phases. You use polar mobile phases to elute the compounds. They're perfect for separating nonpolar compounds, like oils or hydrophobic drugs. You'll often find them used extensively in HPLC. Normal phase columns have polar stationary phases. You use nonpolar mobile phases for the separation. They're great for separating polar compounds, like sugars or plant extracts. You'll find them used in both analytical and preparative chromatography. Affinity columns have ligands bound to the stationary phase. The target molecules specifically bind to these ligands, while the non-target molecules can be easily washed away. This method is very selective and commonly used in biotechnology for purifying specific molecules. Chiral columns have chiral stationary phases, which are used to separate molecules that are mirror images of each other. This is very important in pharmaceuticals and stereochemistry. You can use them in both HPLC and gas chromatography for separating chiral compounds. Great points! To have a successful chromatography process, always make sure your method matches the properties of your compounds. Also, keep your budget, available equipment, and time in mind. Safety is key, so always follow safety rules when handling chemicals. And don't be afraid to test and optimize your process to get the best separation results.